In Consumer Corner, we take a look at trends creating a buzz online in China. On today's show, we'll see how Chinese internet users comment on people taking advantage of the Bank of China's overseas remittance products for money laundering. Last week, a report from CCTV News revealed that an international remittance service provided by the Bank of China called Youhui was suspected of helping its customers launder money. According to the Bank of China, the Youhui service is available for the money that clients intend to spend on investment immigration or purchasing foreign real estate. The biggest difference between Youhui and other international remittance services is that they're using renminbi as an export currency. It's directly exported to overseas Bank of China branches to swap. Thus, it can go beyond the limit of $50,000 annual swap line. In the formal channels of international remittances, Chinese banks are generally the first to exchange clients' money with foreign currencies, then use a SWIFT or worldwide interbank financial telecommunication to export the money overseas. However, for investors, immigrants, and sometimes overseas students, the formal method cannot meet their needs for transferring a large amount of capital. The rapid economic development and flow of talent out of China has led to an increase in demand for overseas remittances. It's not only normal overseas students, immigrants, and foreign buyers with such high consumer demands. It's also corrupt officials and people who own great incomes that also need overseas remittances to help them launder their money. Since 2011, Chinese people have become the second largest foreign real estate buyers in the U.S. Meanwhile, many overseas cities' real estate markets, like Toronto and London, Chinese buyers account for 20 to 40% of all foreign buyers. According to previous reports released by Boston Consulting Group in 2011, the total assets of Chinese individuals with about $1 million in investable assets is over $5 trillion. $440 billion of the assets have already been transferred overseas. This is the equivalent of about 3% of the GDP that year. U.S. investment immigration requires a foreigner to have at least about 3.1 million yuan or $500,000 in legitimate income, and they must not have a criminal record. The probability of success of the project was only 20%, according to an immigration advisor working in the Shanghai Zhenhuan Investment Consulting Company. In Spain and Portugal, immigrants are required to purchase houses with a value of no less than $680,000. Australian immigration needs an investment of $4.8 million. Meanwhile, it requires investors to hold positions as large shareholders or company executives. The expense from being an investment immigrant ranges from $0.4 million to more than $4.5 million. It's 8 to 90 times that of $50,000 individual annual swap lines. For the large demand of overseas remittances, there are methods that can help consumers bypass the control of individual annual swap lines. Most of the existing methods in the market are violations. The newly emerging Chinese investors and immigrants are transferring their money overseas through various means. According to an immigration advisor, besides the Youhui service and Bank of China, migration agencies also cooperate with other banks like China Merchants Bank and ICBC. Clients only need to borrow ID cards from other people, and then those banks can help them remit the amount of money they want. This is regardless of the individual annual swap line. The Bank of China issued a statement to clarify the situation after the news was released. In it, they claimed the story was misreading. People were shocked when they saw the news. Some of them suspected the service was definitely being used by money laundering tools by corrupt officials. One angrily wrote, quote,
"I should say that this time the Bank of China opened the door for those corrupt officials and people who possess illegal money. Although they claim that the Youhui was approved by the China Banking Regulatory Commission, it still indicates that Bank of China is poorly managed and has lax regulations."
One agreed with that statement and noted, quote,
"There are many similar services besides the Youhui and there will be many more in the future. The demands from transferring assets overseas are increasing. They only establish sound financial systems which could improve the situation."
However, there are also some net users that think the current controls for foreign exchange in China need to be reformed. One said, quote,
"In my opinion, the individual annual swap line should be raised as soon as possible. No top limit is best. Free remittances are good for international investments and consumers. They don't let Chinese foreign exchange reserves go to waste."
Another net user who believes the mistake was magnified said, quote,
"I believe the mistake was just made by some irregularities with the bank staff members. Now people are losing their sense of trust in state-owned banks. It can do harm to establish a sound financial environment in China."
As Chinese people are becoming increasingly affluent, they're looking for places to invest their money. Oddly enough, there are very few avenues for investment in China, and many Chinese people think it's worthwhile to spend their money on investments abroad that can get them and their children benefits abroad. These include access to foreign schools and passports. So money laundering has become a very common practice across the board in China.